Hi everybody and welcome to Devour Culinary Classic Volunteer Orientation 2018. I just wanted to turn my camera on for just a moment so you can get a feel for who I am. I'm Kendall Jones, the Community Outreach Manager for Local First Arizona, and I will be your main volunteer lead of the event. So we've got a lot of stuff to go over. This is going to be an overview of not only the event, but also volunteer roles, and also a bit more about the DBG, or Desert Botanical Garden, aka Devour Culinary Classic's new home. So with that, I'm going to turn my camera off so we can get started. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm very excited to have you here with us. So we've got a lot to go over, but first I wanted to get started with who puts on Devour Culinary Classic. So the event itself is put on by 4 main organizations. The first is Local First Arizona. Then we have Southern Arizona Arts and Cultural Alliance, or SACA. Then of course we have Devour Coalition, or Culinary Classic. And then we have the Desert Botanical Garden. For anybody that is unfamiliar, I'm just going to quickly go over who these organizations are. Local First Arizona has been around since 2003, and it is a coalition that supports local businesses and also just local communities all around the state. Our main mission is to celebrate and empower our wonderful vibrancy and communities to be self-sufficient and support a sustainable economy. How do we do that? By supporting local businesses. When you do support local businesses, 4 times more of the money actually stays and recirculates in communities across Arizona, which means that we have more uniqueness, more vibrancy, more pride, and also a more sustainable economy. Next, we have, of course, SACA. They are putting together more of the nuts and bolts of the event of the Culinary Classic this weekend. We've worked with them for about 4 years now, and we love working with them. Their whole mission is all about celebrating and cultivating arts and culture all across the state. And so this is one of many different events that they put together with that mission in mind. Then we have Devour, which is a coalition nestled underneath the umbrella of Local First Arizona. And it works together. It actually is a collaborative effort of local chefs and restaurants in the Phoenix area that collaborate to bring the spotlight on not only just the Phoenix area, but also across the state, really showcasing the fine foods and culinary cuisines that we really want to be known as a destination for visitors from not only across our nation, but also worldwide. Then, of course, we have the Desert Botanical Garden, which is our new home and host of the event. So a little bit about the Culinary Classic. This is the 9th year that we have been organizing the event. So we're almost 10 years old, and it has already sold out. It's the fastest year that it has sold out. And so our goal, always in mind, is to showcase the fine food and great producers and purveyors of Arizona while furthering Metro Phoenix as a dining destination worthy of international prestige. So over this weekend, we will see over 100 restaurant owners, chefs, food producers, winemakers, distillers, and craft beer makers. And we will also see over 4,000 guests over the weekend. So it's about 2,000 packages were sold per day, but this also does not include the full breadth of our staff, our volunteers, our vendor staff. So there's going to be a lot of people going into this garden, but we've got it very organized, and we are basically thinking about how the flow of the event is going to work. And so for those of you that have volunteered with us in the past, we have a lot more room to walk around, people can take their time, and so it's a really beautiful event that we'll be holding this year. Okay. So this is an award-winning event, and we're very, very proud of that fact. It is not one person or one organization that has caused this to be an award-winning event. Instead, it is all organizations and everybody involved that makes this happen, including you, the wonderful volunteers that without you, we could not possibly do this event. So thank you so much, and thank you in advance for the hard work that you'll be putting into this event, and for the quality that will mean that we will continue receiving all of these academic support. Just to name a couple of the awards that we're proud of, for the last 4 years, Phoenix Magazine has named us the best food festival. New Times consistently names it the best culinary festival. The AZ Republic, as well as Central, best food event and best dining experience, Critics' Choice event. And then one of our biggest awards that we're very, very proud of is that the New York Times named the Culinary Classic the best Southwestern culinary festival. And for anybody that has a question about where the proceeds go, 100% of all the proceeds from the Culinary Classic benefit the nonprofit efforts of Local First Arizona, SACA, or the Southern Arizona Arts and Cultural Alliance, and of course the Desert Botanical Garden. So if any guests ask, or if you were wondering yourselves, you can definitely let them know that the proceeds go right back into organizations that are working hard to create a better state for everyone. So just wanted to point out a few new things this year, especially for those of you that are returning. Obviously, we have our new home, the Desert Botanical Garden, and with that, I already mentioned the new walkability. We have strategically placed pockets of experiences for all of our guests, but also I wanted to point out that in years past, we have had mainly 2 packages that we would sell. There would be a general tasting package, and then there would be a VIP level. This year we introduced sort of a midway between the basic tasting package and the VIP package called the Connoisseur package. So I'll go over what all of that means, but I just wanted to kind of point that out so you can have that in your mind. So with the new Botanical Garden home, this means that we can bring together the natural desert landscape and culinary showcase together. So it's really going to be an all-sensory kind of experience, and we're really, really excited to see what that is. Every single guest this year will receive a Devour passport. It's the size of a regular passport, but it is really, really valuable. So at the very beginning, when they get their tickets punched in, and every single guest will receive a glass that they get to keep, as well as a wine milk that holds their glass so they have hands-free for tasting. They will also receive a passport. And inside of this will be a very simplified map of the one that I'll be going over in just a little bit. But they will have a map of the little pockets of experiences that they can go in and find all throughout the garden. But this is a passport that they can use all throughout the year. A lot of the vendors have provided deals or discounts that can be used by bringing your passport, and you can get maybe a glass of wine from an Arizona winemaker, or you could get like an appetizer and maybe a little bit off of a meal. So it really invites people to support these local chefs, restaurants, all of the people involved all throughout the year. So if you see people looking through their passports or they look a little confused, or if you are one of our GLASSWARE volunteers, you will definitely want to talk to people and let them know how valuable these passports are. So as I mentioned, we do have our Connoisseur packages and our VIP packages that people have purchased. And this means that they get access to something very new this year called an experience area. There will be 2 main experience areas that I'll point out on the map. But just know that we have a heritage foods experience area as well as a beverage experience area. And just for your reference point, both the VIP and Connoisseur package holders will be entering into the garden at 10:30 a.m. and they get a full hour to themselves within the garden before we let the tasting ticket holders in at 11:30. So again, VIP and Connoisseur packages will enter into the garden at 10:30 a.m., receive an entire hour by themselves, and then at 11:30, that's when the tasting ticket package holders will be allowed to enter. If you are a returning volunteer, you remember that we have one main VIP lounge. This year, because of the new space, we have been able to introduce a second VIP lounge area. So there's going to be a couple of experience areas. There's going to be lots for everybody to do regardless of their package level. But just know that there's going to be 2 experience areas as well as 2 VIP areas. So diving into the general volunteer information, every volunteer will check in with me, and I will go over where that is, but you will receive a volunteer t-shirt unless you are on my setup time frame. So that's 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. You will not receive a volunteer t-shirt if you are on this early shift. It's just not necessary. We will give you a name badge, and so people will be able to identify you. But we are trying to be very sustainable this year, and we're trying to cut our reduction of resources by as much as we can. So we've only printed a limited number of shirts that will be utilized by those that are working during the event. We ask that you wear dark bottoms. So this is a food festival, spills will happen. Jeans are totally fine, shorts are totally fine. We just say wear dark bottoms because you're probably going to find a little bit of food or something that will spill on your bottoms. Comfortable closed-toed shoes. Cannot stress this enough. You're going to be doing a lot of walking around. It is a garden, it is outdoors. There are lots of different terrain levels, nothing too uneven, but take care of your feet. Value your feet. Comfortable closed-toed shoes. Water bottles. If you have a reusable water bottle, again, we're trying to be sustainable. There are permanent refill stations all throughout the Desert Botanical Garden. So you can refill your water bottle and carry it with you. But make sure that you bring a reusable water bottle if you can. We will have water troughs with some Fiji water bottles in them, but we want to make sure that we have enough of those for the guests. If we run low or run close to low, we will run out and get more. Don't worry about that. But again, we're just trying to be sustainable. Also, again, taking care of yourself. Wear sunscreen, bring a hat. Majority of this event takes place outdoors. We say bring only what you can carry because we do have a lounge area for our volunteers, but it will not be closely watched and you're not liable for anything in that lounge area. So I recommend if you have a fanny pack or if you have just a small bag that you don't mind carrying with you that doesn't hinder you from doing your shift, bring only what you can carry. If you feel comfortable leaving things in the volunteer area, people will just be in and out of there. It will only be staff and volunteers in and out of there, but again, it will not be closely watched. This is a rain or shine event. So regardless of the weather, we will be out there and we expect you to be as well. The weather is supposed to be beautiful though. It's going to be 76 on Saturday and the high is 66 on Sunday. It's going to be gorgeous. This is something that I really want to underscore is parking. It is not just very limited, it is extremely limited. We have designated a parking area, in which I will go over, but just note that it is not just a volunteer parking area. It is a staff and volunteer parking area, and by staff, I mean the Desert Botanical Garden staff, the local First Arizona staff, but on top of that, all of our restaurants and chefs, all of their staff will be parking back there. All of the wineries that are coming out, all of their staff will be parking back there. We have craft beer vendors that will be parking back there as well. It is going to be very, very tight, and we want to make sure we have as much space as possible for our guest ticket holders. So if you know somebody else that is coming and volunteering or coming and enjoying, and you can catch a ride with them, please do carpool if you absolutely have to drive at all. If you do not, we highly recommend a ride share. There is a Lyft promo code that will be included in your final reminder. Get dropped off if you possibly can. There are local taxi cabs, including VIP taxis that can take you to the Desert Botanical Garden to drop you off. We also have found out that a city bus actually goes all the way up to the garden and drops off. There is a bus stop right in front of the garden entrance. So if you want to take this, if you want to carpool, if you want to take a ride share opportunity and just get dropped off, that way you don't have to worry about the parking situation. We will also have bike racks, and also the nearest light rail station is at Washington Street and Priest Drive. But again, just to underscore this, parking is extremely limited. If you do not need to drive, don't. And we really, really ask that you carpool if you absolutely do have to drive. Volunteer check-in is going to be in a building called Marley Education Center. I will point that out on the map, but just know that you do have a volunteer check-in area. It is indoors. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, there is a refill station for water inside of that Marley Education Center. Enjoyment policy and volunteer etiquette. So because we know that you're going to be working extremely hard and keeping the positive energy up and just being very, very helpful all throughout your shift, as a thank you for your time, you are given 2 hours of enjoyment time, which is going to be scheduled for the opposite time of your shift. So if you are a path guide volunteer for the Desert Botanical Garden listening to this orientation, just know that Kristen has your volunteer times and enjoyment times. I'll be going over that at the end, but this enjoyment time schedule listed at the bottom of the screen here, this is for the LFA Devour volunteers. So if you are a part of my team, you're going to pay attention to this enjoyment time, but also if you are from the Desert Botanical Garden that is scheduled as either a glassware or a sustainability volunteer with me, this is going to pertain to you as well. So we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up with this slide here. So if you work the very beginning shift, 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., your enjoyment time is 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. If you work from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., which is shift 1, your enjoyment time is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. If you work the second shift or the afternoon shift, it is 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Your enjoyment time is then 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. If you work our brand new all-day shift, which is 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., your enjoyment time is 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. the opposite day. Every single volunteer is asked to give us your ID when you are checking in for your enjoyment time. This is something that we have carried over from working at the Phoenix Art Museum. This makes sure that we know for a fact who is on enjoyment time, who has left the event, absolutely left the event and checked out, and also who is on shift as well. We want to make sure that we know this because there are fire codes and regulations, so we really just need to know who's where and how many people are in their enjoyment time or on shift. So you will just hand us your ID when you're checking into your enjoyment time, and when you check out of your enjoyment time, you will receive your ID back. Any off-duty volunteers must remove their volunteer t-shirt. So at the beginning of your shift, unless you're a setup volunteer, you will receive a volunteer t-shirt. We are, again, trying to be as sustainable as possible, so at the end of your shift, you will return your t-shirt to us so we can actually use those for the next day, as well as other events that we plan throughout the year. So we want to make sure, again, that we are using as few resources as possible instead of reprinting hundreds and hundreds of shirts. So, but just to underscore, any off-duty or essentially you've checked out of your shift, volunteers, you must remove your volunteer t-shirt. No sampling of any kind should be done while wearing your volunteer t-shirt. This is an absolute hard line. We, again, want to make sure that this event is of the highest quality. And so we really don't want volunteers to be sampling while they are wearing their volunteer t-shirt. On that note, your enjoyment time is when sampling should be happening. Your break time is something that happens while you're on shift. If you want to take a break, that's fine. But you will not be sampling while you are on your volunteer shift. As a thank you, we give you the enjoyment time, which is when sampling is allowed. If you would like to enjoy any of the beer or wine samples, we are absolutely open to that. And we actually sell those wristbands for just $10. So as you are checking into your enjoyment time, we'll make sure that you have the appropriate credentials, aka the right wristband on, so then you can go and enjoy when it's your enjoyment time. You'll notice that for the second shift, which is 12:30 to 4:30, the enjoyment time is 10:30 to 12:30, so you will be in the garden with the VIP and connoisseur package holders. But we do ask that since the VIP and connoisseur package holders are paying guests, that you restrict your tasting and enjoyment areas to just where the tasting tickets are allowed to go. And I will go over what that is, but essentially just the red zones. Just remember the red zones. This is just something that we really want to ask you to respect, because again, this is a quality event and we want to make sure that the ticket holders have the first pick of samples. We want to make sure that there's enough of them for all of our package holders. And so we just ask that you restrict your enjoyment area to just where the tasting ticket holders can go, aka red zones. Okay, so volunteer check-in and check-out. It's very important that you note that you will be checking in and out with me in the volunteer headquarters area. You do not need to go to admissions. You do not need to go anywhere else. You just need to know that you will be checking in and out for both your shift and your enjoyment time with me in the Marley Education Center. So we require that all volunteers check in at the beginning of their shift, of course. You will receive your t-shirt, and then we will have area leads that will lead you to where you will be working, and they can answer any questions about what you'll be doing. They will be your main line of support if there is any issues, or if you're like, hey, this area is really covered, is there another place that I can be helpful? This, again, is our first year, so we have padded the areas with help as much as we know that we'll need, but there might be something that comes up and we're like, you know what, we need you over here instead, so we just ask that you remain flexible with us. Again, checking in and out, so all volunteers, just as they're required to check into their shift, you are required to check out at the end of your shift. And of course, once you're off duty, you will remove your t-shirt and return it to us, Local First Arizona. And then all volunteers, again, must check in and out before and after enjoying the festival. So we will have your ID card, whether it's a driver's license or something else, just something that we can hold on to so we know, okay, this person is absolutely enjoying, so we need to make sure that we've got X number of people on shift before we can let that shift go on to enjoyment time. Just to reiterate, you'll be checking in and out 4 times total. So that's in and out for your shift and in and out for your enjoyment time. So again, this is a very high quality, high customer service expected type of event. So as a volunteer, we just ask that you be respectful to the ticket holders. They are our paying guests. This is the reason why we put this event together. It is because of them that this event is possible. So we want to make sure that we keep the positive energy up. If anybody has any questions and maybe you don't know the answer to them, we will have a lot of staff around and you will have your volunteer leads in your area. So feel free to lean on them. We don't want anybody to walk away with, I don't know what the answer is. We want to make sure that we track down and try and find that answer for them. Also, on that note, we will have the DBG, or Desert Botanical Garden, staff. They have rangers and they have path guides that are really, really knowledgeable, that know the garden like the back of their hand. So they will be very knowledgeable and will be a really great resource if you have any questions. We ask that you restrict your cell phone usage to emergencies only, and we ask that you please taste responsibly and in moderation. Essentially, please don't come in for your shift, or please don't enjoy for your shift. Before your shift, excuse me. Please don't, during your enjoyment time, get too inebriated to be able to fulfill your shift. So again, you are representing not only yourself, but the 4 organizations that put this event together. So we want to make sure that we, again, have that high quality event. So I kind of went over this, but break time versus enjoyment time. Enjoyment time is allotted to you. You have 2 hours as a thank you, which is when you can go and sample the food. So if you are taking a break, that means that you are on shift and you want to take a break. That's totally fine. Please do take breaks. We don't want you to get overworked, but restrict that to going to the volunteer headquarters area. It again will be indoors, so you can relax in there, stay hydrated. If you do want to take a break and kind of walk around, that's fine too, but you need to make sure that you are not showing your volunteer t-shirt. So you either remove your volunteer t-shirt or you can wear a jacket or that covers it up. We just want to make sure that if somebody needs help, like a vendor or a guest, that if you're on break and you're being pulled in that direction, then that takes away from your break time. And also, it's not very helpful if the vendor has to hear, oh, I'm on break, sorry, and they have to go and find somebody else. Let staff know if, one, you are in a lull, so if your area seems really covered, like there's too many people there, your lead volunteers will be walking around and checking in with you periodically. So communicate with them. We want open communication, especially through this first year, to make sure that our consistency and our quality continues to rise. So open communication is absolutely welcome. So again, if you're in a lull in your area and you're like, hey, is there a place where I could be more helpful? I would venture to guess that there is at least one or multiple places that you would be more helpful in. So your lead volunteers may be moving you around according to the need. On the other side of that coin, if you were overwhelmed, please do tell somebody. You will have our phone numbers. You can text us. Again, our leads will be walking around. If you need more people, we want to know. So then we can put a float reserve in there. That is what they're for, or whomever we need to create. Again, if you don't know the answer to a question, that's okay, but we want to make sure that we find the answers. So this is not only Local First Arizona's first year here at the garden, it's the garden's first year hosting us, but also it's the vendor's first year being in the garden here. So we want to make sure that they have everything that they need, or the ticket holder has a question that they get the answer to. So find a staff member of the DBG or of Local First Arizona, find your lead, text me. We just want to make sure that we get all of the questions answered. Okay, so if you want to take a break, again, that's totally fine. We do want you to take breaks. Just make sure that your area is covered. So again, we're all adults. So you need to work it out within your team. Don't take a break when it's really, really busy. Please let your lead volunteer know, hey, I'm taking a break, so then they know that you're taking a break. If you can't find your volunteer lead, you can always text me that, hey, with your name, always identify yourself in text, but just let me know if you cannot find somebody or your volunteer lead. And we just ask that you keep your breaks to about 15 minutes. And again, you can come to the volunteer headquarters area if you want to walk around or just take a little break in the garden. I'm okay with that as long as your volunteer t-shirt is not showing. So there is an intentional overlap between the first and second shift. If you are that first shift, aka 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., your shift ends at 1 p.m. Second shift does start at 12:30 p.m., but that 30 minutes is entirely intentional and crucial. It is your job to help orient and get that second shift ready and set into your role that you will be leaving. So communicating with them, showing them what the job entails, letting them know if there was something that changed halfway through that worked a little bit better, communicate that with them as well. It's very important that we have that overlap time, because again, if somebody is a little late or whatever that might look like, or just needing some extra clarification, we have a lot of that time for any of those questions to be answered. All volunteers on second shift will transition into breakdown and resetting your respective areas once the event has ended. So if you are a Saturday afternoon shift, you will be helping to set up and reset for Sunday. And then if you are a Sunday afternoon shift, second shift, 12:30 to 4:30, then you will be breaking down the event in full. We will let you know what that breakdown or reset entails, so don't worry about it. We will make sure that you know what to do. So the video isn't quite playing, but it's Jane Fonda doing a little exercise dance, being flexible. So this was just a fun way for me to just say, hey, we're all learning. And again, we thought about 99% of the things that we could possibly think about. But there are going to be moments where something comes up that we didn't know about because it's our first year. So we ask that you remain flexible and patient with us. So if you end up doing something that maybe you weren't initially assigned to, we ask that you be flexible, but also communicate with us. Let us know if there are any limitations or restrictions. We don't want to injure anybody or overwork anybody. But we do ask, again, that you keep an open communication with us, you be flexible and patient, and we just want to make sure that it starts with us as far as the positive energy, and so we want to make sure that everybody, including ourselves, have a really great time. It's going to be a lot of fun, but there will be little things that come up, but we'll manage that as they do. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of our event map. It's going to look a little clustered, but I promise you, we will start from a 30,000-foot viewpoint and work our way down to the ground. So this is our event map. I know there's a lot going on, but here's what I really want to get started with. So I am going to pull up a little arrow here, so then you can see what I'm talking about. Notice on the map that you can that we have these areas here. So on this map, you have area 1 right here. It's in this thick blue line area. Area 1. Then we have area, oops, sorry about that. Area 2. That is in this purple line. Then, last but not least, we have area 3 right here, and this encompasses is in a thick green line. Just to again note, so we're going to start from the 30,000-foot view and work our way down to the ground, but we will have copies of these maps printed. We are sending this copy of this to you in the final reminder, so you have this on hand. So don't worry, we will have plenty of copies of these available for anybody that would like one. And we're also going to have these stationed in areas as well. So you have 3 main areas of the event. There are going to be 2 leads, 2 local First Arizona Devour leads, aka assistants to me as staff, that will be in charge of each area. So there's going to be 2 leads in area 1, 2 leads in area 2, and 2 leads in area 3. They will be moving within these different zones, so you will be placed in a zone. They will be moving within these zones, making sure that you are getting your breaks, making sure that you're not in a lull, making sure you're not overwhelmed, checking in with you to make sure everything's running smoothly. So moving within these areas, you'll notice that within Area 1, there are zones. Same thing with Area 2 and Area 3. The zones are those little pockets of areas that people will walk to and experience something. So in Area 1, which encompasses zones 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll notice that we have a lot of things kind of going on. But the first thing I wanted you to notice is that the zones have a color to them. The color means what ticket holders are in those areas. So really quickly, the red zones are tasting ticket access areas. Connoisseur package holders are allowed in the red areas, and the VIPs are allowed in the red areas. So just to note that zones 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, and 9, every package holder is allowed in these areas. They are red, which will correspond to the wristband of the tasting ticket holders. Next we have the yellow wristband for these yellow zones, zones 7 and 10. This is where the connoisseur package holders are allowed extra access. So the connoisseur package holders are allowed to go in any of the red zones as well as the yellow zones. The tasting ticket package holders are only allowed in the red zone. Finally, we have the green zones. These are our VIP zones. The green VIP ticket holders will be wearing wristbands, and they will be allowed anywhere in the garden. So they are allowed in the red zones, the yellow zones, and we have those 2 VIP lounges. The connoisseur package holders and the tasting ticket holders are not allowed in the green VIP zones. They are not allowed in zone 4 and zone 5. These zone 7 and 10 are our experience areas. These are the heritage foods experience and the beverage experience. I will go into that in more detail in just a moment. So going back to Area 1, which encompasses zones 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is also encompassing the volunteer headquarters area, which is inside of the Marley Education Center. This is where you will go to actually check in for your shift and your enjoyment time in the Marley Education Center. In that same building, you will have supplies stored for any of the vendors. This includes cutlery, napkins, cups, whatever they need. You can go and get that. So if you are a paper goods warehouse person, this is where you will go to grab supplies and bring them out to the vendor that needs them. We also will have judges for the second time in this, or for the second year in a row. We will have judges. These are distinctive people that are chosen to go around and actually taste a lot of the vendors' samples. And then they will then deliberate in the building across from the Marley Center. It's the Weiss building. They will deliberate and choose who will be the winners of this year's Devour Excellence Awards. So I want to also point out that there is a green line with the VIP entry line. This is within Area 1. Let me grab an arrow so that I can point it out to you. I'm talking about this right here, this VIP entry line. The VIP will be lining up in this line right here, and they will enter into the garden through a double gate, and they will walk through a breezeway right in between the buildings where the VIP or the volunteer headquarters are and where the judges deliberate. So this VIP entry line right here, this is where they will get their glassware, their wine note, and their passport. They will then enter into the garden and be able to go all the way through and enter into the garden and go to zones 1, 2, 3, 4, and then continue on into the other areas. Then we're going to move into Area 2. So within Area 2, we have zones 5, 6, and 7. So Area 2 will again have 2 Local First Devour volunteer leads, and they will be placing you in your respective zone areas. There will be path guides as well all throughout the event. Each area, just so you know, has the Local First Arizona Devour lead. They will also have a path guide lead, and they will have a sustainability green team lead. So there's going to be a lot of support there, a lot of people that you can talk to if you have questions. So within Area 2, we have our VIP Zone 5. And this is named Zone 5, but it's the Webster's Auditorium. And it also has a courtyard that's attached to the Webster's Auditorium. So one of our sponsors is a cruise ship line. You're going to love this. The cruise ship line has decided to hire silt walkers dressed as trees, and they will be in Zone 5 hanging out with the VIPers. So there's going to be some entertainment going on all throughout the festival. So note that Zone 5 again is of course our VIP only area, but Zone 6 is an all access area, and Zone 6 is called Pullman Terrace. This is where our craft beer garden will be, so a majority of our craft beer vendors will be up in Zone 6. There will be music and seating and all sorts of fun stuff. And then the VIP and connoisseur guests are welcome into the Heritage Foods area, experience area, which is Zone 7. So Zone 7 is actually inside of a herb garden that is growing herbs all the time and produce all the time at the garden. It's brand new. And our chefs are going to be utilizing those growing produce and herbs into the samples that they provide. So it's a really cool learning experience, so you not only as a connoisseur or VIP ticket holder get to taste the wonderful heritage foods, but you get to see how they're grown, and you get to talk to the chef and learn about that too. So if you're a returning volunteer, these experience areas have kind of taken over what the demos were. Moving down to Area 3, I'm going to start at the bottom here. So in Area 3, if you look, you can see that the connoisseur line and the tasting ticket line ticket holders will be lining up right here. So I'm just going to point out this entry arbor is probably the majority of you all have entered into the garden before. It's just a beautiful little arbor, and then that leads you to the bridge that you walk over, and then the pathway that lines around and you go up to the admissions building. The admissions building is right here. So, just to point out that the connoisseur and tasting ticket holders will be lining up at the same area, but note that the connoisseur package holders and the VIP package holders will be entering into the festival at the same time, which is 10:30 a.m. The connoisseur package holders will just be entering into the event through the admissions area. The VIP will be entering in through a little side gate and going through a breezeway into the Area 1. That's how they will be entering. So, moving through Area 3, which again will have 2 lead volunteers from the local First Arizona Devour team. It will have 1 lead sustainability volunteer, and it will also have a lead path guide. So you'll have lots of support, again, if you have any questions, but there will also be general path guides stationed throughout this area. So we have zones 8, 9, and 10. Zone 8 is sort of an open field area, and it's the Desert Terrace Garden. And this is where we're going to have kind of a circle of vendors. We might have some wineries, or we might have some craft beer vendors. We'll have some seating out there, so it's going to be a very active area that's very much open. Then we have Zone 9, and this will include a little amphitheater area that people can go into, and it's they've built some seating in there. There will be music happening in this amphitheater area, and then along the pathway will be vendors that will be lined up, like shirt vendors and things like that too. Zone 10 is in the Wildflower Pavilion. This is where we will have our second beverage experience area, which is the beverage experience area. So again, only the VIP and connoisseur package holders, aka those with the green and yellow wristbands, will be allowed to go into zones 10 and 7. The VIP will only be, or the VIP have access to everything, and then the tasting ticket holders only have access to the red zone. Inside of the beverage experience, this is where we're going to have incredible learning experiences with, there might be a chef or something like that, but it's mostly just going to be our wine and beer craft purveyors. So there's going to be a learning session with our women brewers, and they're going to be talking about the craft and the history of beer making, which is actually was something that women, it was a part of their work, and so women are the first beer makers, if you didn't know that. And so they'll be doing that, but outside of each of the zones, I just want to point out, outside of each of the zones will be huge signage that will list what's going on in that zone. So if there are vendors in there, it will list the vendors right outside of the zone. If it's a beverage experience or a heritage food experience, it will list what's happening in there. If there are timed things, it'll list that as well. And then in this area too, I just want to point out a couple more things. Wine sales. So for those of you that are returning, we do sell the wine that is being sampled within the event. So the wine sales will be happening right next to admissions, and we will have some dedicated volunteers helping to load out the wine. There will be some dollies and things like that to help with that too. Notice in Zone 9, there is a red cross. It's gray, but it is a little first aid cross. This is a first aid station. We anticipate that there will be some cacti prickly injuries. This happens all the time. The DBG is well versed and well seasoned to how to take care of it. But just note that you can walk a guest down to where Zone 9 is, right near admissions, and you can find that first aid station. And we will probably have a ranger there all the time, but you can always notify a path guide if somebody needs assistance as well. There are going to be bathrooms all throughout, so don't worry, no matter what, there's going to be a restroom for our guests to be able to find. And finally, I just wanted to go back to Area 1. Zone 1 is where our desserts and a lot of our wine purveyors will be. There are a lot of restrooms in there too. It's called Dorrance Hall. Okay. So I just wanted to underscore that we do have point P for any sort of safety issues that we may come across. So the first line of defense is to find a DBG path guide, or if you can find a ranger, that's even better, but I'd say you'll probably find a path guide first. Path guides will be wearing Ask Me buttons. They will still be wearing our volunteer t-shirts, but they will have giant Ask Me buttons plus their lanyards, which are their DBG lanyard IDs as well. And they have the ranger, the DBG ranger number on the back of their IDs, so they can phone a ranger if it's needed. So I pointed out on the map that you can bring a guest to the first aid station, or you can find a ranger or a path guide to bring them to this first aid station. But again, this is in Zone 9 near the entrance. If you have a serious safety issue, and I mean absolutely serious, like somebody is unconscious, they are not answering you, do not wait, call 911, but then immediately call, find a path guide, call a ranger or find a path guide to alert them, because they are going to be the point people to be able to direct those emergency responders to the area where you're at. If you end up calling a ranger, which we will have the number and we'll give that to you, then you will just make sure, tell the person where you're at. You can use your zone, or if you know the names of the places, you can use the name of the place, but that way they know where to actually go and help in that emergency situation. For your information, local First Arizona volunteer area, the volunteer check-in area, will have a first aid kit if you have any issues or needs for a first aid kit. Again, we fully expect some prickly injuries, but we have encouraged all attendees to wear appropriate footwear. As they say at the Desert Botanical Garden, they're plants, you don't want to touch them because they might touch you back. So now I'm going to buzz through our volunteer roles. You should have received a confirmation email from the local First Arizona volunteer email that outlines more about what your role entails. So I'm going to buzz through this so that we can get to our second part, which is the Desert Botanical overview, and then you can be all set to go for this weekend. So if you are one of our setup volunteers, you will be helping at 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. You will be mostly helping in the loading dock area or helping set up throughout. You'll be assisting event staff with restaurant check-in process, escorting restaurants to their assigned area, assisting restaurants with setup, i.e. grabbing them paper goods or ice or whatever they might need, assisting with loading restaurant equipment if it's needed, and then setting up different areas of the event before opening. If you are on glassware, this means that you are helping to distribute glassware to the VIP or the connoisseur tasting ticket holders. You will be dispersing glassware to patrons with the appropriate credentials, managing collection tables, collecting abandoned dirty glasses, polishing clean glasswares if needed, and setting up glasses at the end of the day. This is a Saturday afternoon requirement only. Sunday afternoon, volunteers in glassware will be breaking down the event. VIP areas, aka Zone 4 and Zone 5. You will be helping to maintain the cleanliness of the VIP areas, ensuring correct ticket holders are in the VIP areas, reading and answering any questions, helping to direct any of the VIP guests, and keeping the VIP service at the highest level of customer service. Outside outside of the zones, the beverage experience and the VIP areas, we will have clear signage that shows what color wristband is allowed in that area. So we just ask that you help manage that, making sure that the right people with the right credentials are in those areas. If you're a float reserve, you are anywhere and everywhere. You will be helping with miscellaneous tasks, covering areas of need, of extra support, maybe covering a break for a volunteer, helping to clean up. You are the Jack and James of all trades. If you're an experience area volunteer, i.e. you're helping out in the heritage foods experience or the beverage experience, you will be assisting with setup and prep if it's needed, clearing areas of waste, monitoring the entryways, ensuring the guests with appropriate credentials are allowed inside. Saturday afternoon volunteers will help with the reset. Sunday afternoon volunteers will help with breakdown. Paper goods warehouse. This is going to be in each area, so you will be managing and distributing paper goods to chefs and restaurants as needed. Do not just stand around. Check in with your chefs. Make sure that they have everything they need before they run out. If they need water, you will be grabbing them water. Green team volunteers. So we don't say that we are zero waste. We are towards zero waste. We are making strides every single year to become more and more sustainable. So we divert waste. We will have bin stations all throughout the garden with bin guarders standing behind them, educating the guests about where their waste can go. We will have the bin guarders guarding landfill trash, compost trash bin, as well as recycling. And just so you know, it's a really awesome feeling when you know that you're helping with the sustainability piece, because we have diverted, last year we diverted 50% of our waste out of the landfill, and that really means something. People really, really appreciate everything that we do, and it really comes from each one of us on the team, especially the green team, helping make that happen. So if you are a DBG path guide, you will be assisting with the guiding the guests throughout the event. Many of the guests are not familiar with the DBG, so as well as our Devour volunteers, maybe depending on you to help kind of guide and lead. Helping to watch entry areas and ensure attendees with appropriate credentials are entering those areas, and then assisting with any minor or major injuries that may take place. As I mentioned before, your shift times are a little different than the Devour shift times, so I just want to go over, if you are working a 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. shift, your enjoyment time is 1:30 to 3:30. If you are working a 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. shift, your enjoyment time is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Finally, in this round, if you have not already signed the volunteer agreement form, we will have you sign it day of before you get your t-shirt. It's just an agreement form that you know what's expected of you, you know what's expected of us. You will be able to read it day of if you have not signed this yet. Okay, we are going to buzz through the Desert Botanical Garden Devour venue details, and then you will be completely set and ready for this big event. So just to kick it off, the Desert Botanical Garden is extremely excited to be hosting Devour for the first time this year. So it's going to take an all-hands-on-deck kind of effort to make sure that everybody is communicating well. We will be depending on the path guides especially to help guide our guests as well as some of our volunteers and staff. There will be garden rangers roaming around the grounds and are only a phone call away should you need their assistance. The garden has also hired extra security, pro-am staff that will be assisting the rangers in making sure that the parking lot is safe as well as the event itself. The lovely rangers. So this is a picture of each and every one of them. Just so you know what they're wearing, they wear a tan kind of button-up shirt, and then they have green bottoms, and they have a very cool-looking badge. It's a yellow badge on their shirt. It says DBG Ranger. You look at a ranger and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a ranger. Can't miss them. So I would recommend, it's going to be in your final reminder email, but recommend saving the ranger phone number. But again, every single path guide has their ranger phone number on the back of their ID card. So if there is an emergency situation, find a path guide. They are going to be able to contact a ranger, but if you cannot find a path guide, feel free to call a ranger yourself. If you have a radio, it will be radio channel 1. So the garden is a museum, and every single one of the plants are their collections, so they do have policies in place for a reason. The first is no pets except service animals. So this might kind of get into a little sticky situation. We've never really had anybody bringing pets into our event before, but if you see somebody that has a dog or something like that, just find a path guide and find a ranger or a staff member. We say that our volunteers are encouragers, not enforcers. So you just make sure that you ensure that the guests are following the policies that are in place, but you are not expected to enforce those policies. That is what staff and the rangers are for. No smoking or vaping allowed within the garden. It is only allowed in the parking lot only. Everybody will have a wristband so they can re-enter if they are going to enjoy their cigarette or vape out in the parking lot. Staying on the paths is absolutely crucial. And also no touching the plants. Again, they will touch you back. No climbing on the rocks or walls. That's a security thing. And these policies, again, are in place to protect guests and the collection. So many of the plants have shallow roots, so they can be damaged if people are not staying on the pathways. In the event of an emergency, again, find a path guide. If you are a path guide, get a ranger. And if you find yourself in an extremely serious situation, somebody's not answering you, then call 911, then call a ranger. What you want to do is state your location. You can state where your zone is that you are, or you can state the place name itself if you're familiar with that. Keep it short, keep it sweet, no gory details. They just need to know where you are. And then once the ranger has come to your area, they can take over the situation and you can be on your merry way. If it's not that serious, example, cactus spines, dehydration, etc., call a ranger. Ranger station is, the ranger first aid station is located on the south side of the entry garden, Zone 9. This is the picture of the door. You can knock on the door if you're walking a guest down, but there should be a ranger nearby unless they've been pulled away for an absolutely extreme emergency situation. The final thing that I really want to go over is the parking situation. So if you are new to the garden, you probably came into the garden on this little squiggly line right here. So you came down this little squiggly line, then you probably came into the garden, and then you probably hit a stop sign. Right where that stop sign is, you would hang a left, and that would enter into this parking area that is in the red circle. This is where we will be parking all of the staff and our volunteers. Hopefully you are carpooling if you have to drive. So we want to make sure that as many spots as possible are saved for our guests. They are going to get the spots first. So just know that we will have a ranger or pro-am staff manning this parking area to make sure it doesn't get crazy, nobody's getting boxed in. But again, just try and avoid parking at all costs. The bus that I mentioned will drop off literally right at the entrance of the garden. So there's a bus stop right there. So you can take a city bus, you can get dropped off. Just really try to avoid parking. It's a busy weekend. The zoo is going to be crazy. There's going to be baseball games. So there's really no other place to park. So once you park in the parking lot, if you are parking in the parking lot, then you're going to make your way to the volunteer area. You're going to walk straight down from the parking lot to the path where the VIP will be lining up. From there, you will walk past the VIP line and you will go through the little gates into the check-in area. So the check-in area, just so you know, this is the little dotted line here that comes from the parking lot into the VIP entrance. You will go through the little double gate, and then you will hang a left at the little semicircle, and that will bring you to the Marley building. So inside of the Marley building, you will have signage out the front. This is where you will check in and out of your shift and enjoyment time. This is your volunteer lounge. The path guide will be checking in with Kristen or Nancy, and all of the Devour volunteers will be checking in. So this is just the inside of the hallway of the Marley Education Center. The There is a kitchen if you want to bring anything to kind of munch on. The volunteer headquarters at the very end of the hallway is where the supplies will be. We will be in the interpreter HQ. We'll have plenty of signage. You can't miss us. We'll be right there in the hallway checking people in. And if you have any questions, you can follow up with the final reminder email. But in the meantime, I highly recommend just reviewing all of this information and also making sure that you know what your shift time is and making sure that you find alternatives to having to drive yourself. Thank you so much. We're very excited to see you, and we cannot wait to volunteer with you at the 2018 Devour Culinary Classic. See you at the